Did you hear this? Barbie, the movie, has made $1 billion at box offices around the world. Experts are crediting its masterclass marketing campaign. There's a Barbie dream house Airbnb in Malibu in the States. There are Barbie gaming consoles, Barbie rugs, Barbie suitcases, Barbie burgers, complete with a mysterious pink sauce, and even a Barbie collaboration with an insurance company. I don't even want to know about that. And among its signals about feminism, and are there some more harmful messages within this movie? For example, Barbie Botox. It's a trend fueled by social media like TikTok, particularly for women to get Botox injections to look more like Barbie. But there's a bit of pressure for men as well. Dr. Vivek Eranki is the CEO of Cosmetique that has an injection clinic in Geelong. Good morning. Have you had an increase in inquiries from young people wanting to look like Barbie or Ken?
Good morning, Jono. Thank you for having me on. And yes, we have actually. The reason why we were a little bit concerned about this is we've noticed increasing traffic on social media about Barbie Botox, and we've received subsequent inquiries to book in to look more like Barbie or to have treatment that people perceive that Barbie would receive. Now, whilst it's reasonable for people to buy Barbie merchandise such as their dream house, insurance policies, and burger sauce, what you're looking at here is a purely medical treatment. And patients need to be mindful that just because somebody on TikTok states that it's a good idea doesn't necessarily mean that it translates to their best interest. One of the most common inquiries that the clinic has received is this treatment called Barbie Botox to the neck. And what it basically involves is injecting Botox into the muscles of the neck and the back, the trapezius muscles. And what that effectively does is that reduces the activity of the muscles and hence shrinks the muscle, thereby making the neck look elongated. On the surface, it looks innocent, but the problem with that is this is originally a treatment that has been designed to help people who've got muscle imbalance as well as back pain. Now, if you translate that to a purely aesthetic outcome, what basically happens is you might be increasing a risk of getting back and neck pain going into the future, and especially given that a lot of young people already have office jobs where they're working on a computer where their posture isn't perhaps the best out there.
So, I mean, there's been a lot of discussion around the feminist themes in this movie, but are people still wanting to look like the original Barbie dolls and Ken dolls?
I think the generation that's watching the movie currently may not have grown up with the feminist messages from the era gone by. I mean, if you look at the average patient who comes to our clinic, their ages are between the ages of 18 and 30 years old. So when they look at Barbie, especially in this context, they're looking at Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie, not the Barbie dolls.
Right.
And hence, the aesthetics that they want to emulate would be more consistent with the aesthetics of Margot Robbie. Now, the movie itself has casted a lot of actors and actresses that society considers beautiful, and hence it does mean that there are more people who wish to emulate that aesthetic. And this is where clinics need to be very mindful, because what's happened over the last few years is that cosmetic treatments have become more accessible and affordable. And yes, it has many positive effects, because a slight tweak here and a slight bit of Botox there erases wrinkles, which makes people feel better about themselves. But the key is not to project somebody else's aesthetics onto yourself. You're not going to look like Kylie Jenner. You're not going to look like Kim Kardashian or Barbie. And it's a dialogue that the clinic has to have with the patient in order for the outcomes to be realistic and in order for the treatment itself to not do harm.
According to the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, the amount of money that men spend on Botox treatments has risen by 400% since the year 2000. So that's 23 years ago. Mm-hmm. What about the rise of Botox? Are you getting more men coming in, potentially trying to look like Ken?
I don't know if they actively try to look like Ken, but yes, we do have a lot of male patients coming in as well. Even though the amount of Botox and fillers in men has gone up quite significantly, and even though it permeated itself through different societies of men as well. So, for example, people who are in the entertainment industry, to people who are, for example, real estate agents who just want to look a little bit fresher. We find that the overwhelming majority of patients are still female. So something like 98% of our patient base is still female. And yes, the number of men has gone up from a decimal point to about 2%. But it is still a mainly female-orientated treatment modality at this point.
Yeah, that's interesting. It is 9 minutes to 11. You're on ABC Victoria, statewide mornings. We're having a chat with Dr. Vivek Eranki, the CEO of Cosmetique. They've got a clinic in Geelong talking about Botox treatments and people potentially coming in and asking to look like Barbie. Have you had to turn people away or refuse treatment to some people because it's just not the right thing to do?
Absolutely. We do that fairly regularly. So what happens in a patient books in is there's a consultation that happens with the practitioner and the nurse. And if the patient's desired aesthetic outcome is not realistic, or if there's extrinsic factors that are motivating them to have treatment, say, for example, a movie or a TikTok trend, or basically their boyfriend asking them to have treatments done, in those cases, we do turn them down for treatments because it is not in their best interest to undergo the treatment.
And do you think those people then could potentially go on to backyard injectors?
The sad reality is yes. The sad reality is there are people out there who would be less discerning of patients and they're more likely to undertake treatments. At the end of the day, we can only control what we can control, and hence we have a very strict clinical governance framework that ensures that patients who are vulnerable don't undergo treatment that is not in their best interest.
So how responsible is TikTok in all of this, and how responsible are the makers of Barbie, do you think?
Oh, look, my personal feeling is that you can't hold them responsible because at the end of the day, they are tasked to make a movie, and they made a movie which by all metrics is very successful. $1 billion of sales is incredible. I personally haven't seen it myself. I watched Oppenheimer, but not the Barbie movie. And when it comes to TikTok, TikTok is a platform, right? So there's very informative TikToks out there. There are very mindless TikToks out there. So realistically speaking, I think the responsibility falls onto the clinician. The responsibility falls onto the person that is holding the needle, that basically, and the patient comes and says, I want to look like Margot Robbie, can you make me look like Margot Robbie? It's up to the clinician to say, no, that is not ethical of me to do so. So I wouldn't place any blame on the Barbie movie, nor would I place blame on TikTok in this case.
So what's the solution then? What should the industry do?
I think the industry, there is very strict guidelines in this industry, and there's strict regulation in the industry as well. So my feel here is that if people stick to their guidelines, if people stick to the regulation and act in the patient's best interest, regardless of what movie comes on after Barbie or what TikTok influencer becomes famous after the Kardashians, the patient's best interest is always protected. At the end of the day, we can't control who the next big movie or the next big person on social media is going to be, or what the next big social media platform is going to be. What we can, however, control is the message that we always act in the patient's best interest.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, thank you for talking to us. I appreciate your time, Dr. Vivek Eranki, the CEO of Cosmetique, that has a clinic in Geelong. He says he has seen an increase in people coming through because of the Barbie movie, asking to look like Margot Robbie or Ryan Gosling. But he did say 98% of his patients are women.